Okay, so plain is simple. Just like with DPS tier lists, it's gonna be the same layout. Give you my explanation as to why I think a player belongs in said tier. There's only about like 40-ish players to rank, so it's a bit more straightforward than DPS. I don't think there'll be as many hot takes this go around, but we'll see. I tried to be as accurate as possible, include everyone from every roster, even if they really didn't play. And we'll go from there. So, first up is Adam. He literally did not play, so he's going in his own special tier that I made. No playtime / Adam Sadface. Got screwed over yet again, this time by Florida. Poor guy cannot catch a break. But I wanted to shout him out because we stand Adam around here, and he's easily the most unlucky pro ever for what has happened in his OWL career so far. Nothing but drama and just, poor management has followed him everywhere. But we're going to give Adam some love. We love Adam around here. Next, the first real tank we can rank is Belos Rhea. And Belos Rhea, I think, is a solid B. B for Belos Rhea. I thought he was a little above average. He wasn't anything spectacular, but I think he's a bit underappreciated, especially if you checked out my most recent video. He's pretty good on the dive tanks. His wrecking ball, hella underrated. He was somewhat flexible, too. I give him a lot of credit. He created a lot of space for his fantastic DPS. So yeah, Belos Rhea was good. Nothing out of this world, but he got the job done, for sure. This is going to be Bernard. And Bernard, I was not that impressed with this year. I thought Bernard was just okay. He had his moments, especially early season when the Spark were, playing relatively well. But I didn't really like Bernard's play. I kind of thought he was in the C range, personally. Junker Queen was, just okay. He wasn't really great on anything at all, in my opinion. I thought Gushue was the better tank for this team. That could just be recency bias because of playoffs, but I thought he was just the better leader and tank player for Spark. Yo, OWL guy. Can you explain why Adam has the worst luck in OWL? I haven't kept up with him. Essentially, he signed to the Valiant in 2021. Their team disbanded. 2022, joined Florida Mayhem. He got released without being able to play a single map. Kaluj. Kaluj is a tough one. I think it really depends on what your S tier looks like and what you think of as an S tier tank. But you can make an argument Kaluj was S tier, I think. He's either a very high A or a low S IMO. He did very good, with some heroes that you wouldn't expect him to be good on, like Monkey. He even played a good Monkey in the playoffs, which is really saying something, considering the elite Winston players that he was going up against, like Smurf and whatnot. He was reliable on Queen as well. I thought he did great on that hero. His Sigma was, top of the line, top notch, amazing stuff. There was nothing bad that Kaluj played, in my opinion. He's just a really consistent and solid player. Yeah, man's told Smurf to sit. I think I'm going to put him low S for now, but he might go to high A. Either or. Kaluj was excellent. He could be A+. We'll see. Krong is going to be our next contestant. And it was a bit of a sad fall off for Krong. I think he maybe redeemed himself a little bit in Summer Showdown with Wrecking Ball. But if you're going off the season as a whole, he was pretty mediocre. It's unfortunate because Krong back in his heyday was a god. But I'm going to give Krong a C tier. I'll put him a little behind Bernard. I rate them pretty similarly. I think Krong had one decent stage, then he got replaced by Piggy, which goes to show that he didn't really have it anymore, and he was on his way to retirement anyway at that point. So I'll give Krong a nice C tier. He was just average. This is going to be Don. Don, for those of you who remember when Paris actually had their original roster, he wasn't anything great. I'm going to go ahead and put Don in a high D. I honestly thought Vestola was the better tank for Paris during that time. Could just be me, but I wasn't that big of a fan of Don. I was hoping he'd do more because he seems like a pretty flexible player. Yeah, D for Don. He just didn't have it, though. Did not have it. D for Don. DaiZ. DaiZ was mostly a specialist. I think we can all agree. He was a good Zarya, no doubt. But outside of that, not all that impressive. He did what he could. He filled in for what Gaga couldn't play. He was not out of this world. I liked his Zarya, though. I appreciate his Zarya. It was pretty dominant at times. I think you could give him like a low C, personally. Let's see. Worst tank in the league, IMO, at least relative to APAC. Yeah, that's fair. I thought Azaria was good for what it's worth, though. Maybe he is D, but, you know, he's in that range. Either low C or D. Dante. I'm gonna go ahead and give Dante an A tier. In my opinion, he was really good. Like, some people don't give him enough credit for what he did on that Houston team on a role he's never actually played before at this level. He comes in, looks like a premier Doomfist player. Even his Queen was pretty good. He played Winston with literally no practice whatsoever, basically, in the playoffs, and he held his own. I'm not going to sit here and say that he was amazing, but for what I saw with the lack of experience, I was pretty impressed. So I think Dante gets a solid A+, you know, like mid-A. Honestly, insane what he was able to do, just considering what he was before in his career as literally a DPS player. Yeah, in my opinion, he should have been a role star. That's not to say that he was like one of like the 4 best tanks in the league or whatever, but I more so based role star on like how much you mean to your team. And Dante meant so much to the Outlaws this year, without a doubt. A tier, and I look forward to seeing how he improves on this role in 2023. False. I feel bad for False, to be honest with you. I think that False got screwed over by being the only tank on Vancouver at the beginning of this year, when we knew damn well that he was mostly just good at the off-tank heroes. He needed someone who could be there to play Winston and stuff, especially with how relevant he was at the beginning of the year. My boy False got screwed. He's honestly a good player, but he didn't really show it. Vancouver sucked. He didn't play good either. False gets a D tier. It's to no fault of his own. I can't blame him, but I did not like how False played, personally. Fate. Fate, he took a notable dip compared to his season in 2021. You forgot Doge, look in second list. He's right there, it'll be all good. We can... Oh wait, yeah, I forgot, I need to rank him. I mean, we'll rank him right after Fate. So, as I was saying with Fate, you know, he was like a revolutionary, like arguably playing the best Overwatch of his career in 2021. His Wrecking Ball is insane. And while I don't think he was awful this year, it just wasn't really the same. I thought Void was the better option for Shanghai overall. I think most people would agree there. His ball looked still, you know, okay. His Monkey was fine. Just nothing revolutionary. Fate's, in my opinion, still above average, but he gets a B. I'd argue Belos Ria had more impact than Fate did. Doge. So Doge played like a handful of maps. I'm questioning if I even want to rank him, to be honest with you. I feel like I should put him in no playtime because it was like that one... He played like that one series, I feel like. Or maybe it was 2, I don't remember. I was against New York and like... Or no, not New York. Who was it? I don't remember, but he like wasn't playing well. No, maybe it was New York. I can't remember exactly who it was, but whenever he was in, the team was like losing. Oh, Boston. Right. He played against Boston. True. On high ping. Is 2 matches enough to rank him, though, chat? I don't really know. I'd argue it's not enough playtime, personally. Fearless. It's a tough call with Fearless, because I think he only had his specific uses for Dallas, but he was really good with them. I feel like he should be an S tier, just because of how he played in the playoffs and his consistency overall. It was like mostly Winston that he was good at, but dude was Grand Finals MVP. It's really hard to go against that. I always thought whenever he did play, he was pretty dominant. It's just he only had his specific uses. So it really depends on the value, I think, with Fearless. Like, that's how you have to think of it. Do you feel like he should be knocked down because he wasn't as flexible or, you know, meaningful as Hanbin? Or do we look past that and see what he did in the playoffs to help Dallas win the finals? It really depends on your perspective, I feel like. I think Fearless should be S. I feel like if I put a Kaluge in S, I should put Fearless in S. I could adjust things later on. I just think in general he was still a really consistent player for Dallas when he did get to play. It's really hard to justify putting Kaluge ahead of Fearless. Like, I know Kaluge was more flexible, but Fearless is obviously the better player. So I'm going to put Fearless S tier. Flexibility is the future of Overwatch. Yeah, no doubt. It depends on your view. And in all fairness, flexibility on tank is really, really important right now. Okay, so Fury is up next, and it's so weird how off tanks that I respected just aren't playing as well anymore. I'm good, Nano. Hope you are as well. Fury was so mediocre this year, man. I think Fury's like right around where Bernard was. I didn't really like how Fury played. He struggled on Junker Queen. He didn't really have it. It's not the guy that I'm used to seeing, that's for sure. How much did Fury play? He played a decent bit. He played a lot of Junker Queen and stuff. But obviously Belos Rhea was the better fit for the team. It saddens me because Fury is an all-time great guy. But, just okay. And I'm not really expecting him to join another team in 2023. With the lack of Diva, it's hard, you know. And Sigma not being that great most of the time, outside of like a few specific maps, I think Fury gets a C. Wait for the tanks we'll see in the next couple of years. Yeah, it'll be exciting as the game evolves to see that. Gaga. Another guy who kind of took a dip compared to the previous season, I'd say. I think Chengdu suffered a lot from not being able to play as much Wrecking Ball. You know, obviously Gaga's a good overall tank, but Wrecking Ball's like his bread and butter. I thought he was just average. He struggled a lot on the Junker Queen meta. He had his ups and downs. I think Gaga had his ups and downs. I still think he was about average, though. I think he's probably like a C. Oh, wait. Someone said something about Dia. Where was it? Where was that? I think someone said something about Dia. He played tank. Well, I don't consider him a tank. DPS was his position. He played only Queen. I don't really think it's right ranking someone who just played for Junker Queen alone. That's why he's not here. Gator. Oh boy. Gator. Didn't play all that much, but when he did, it left a lot to be desired. Hawk was obviously the guy that they needed in the game. They kind of forced Ryan at times, and like they had him in on Winston occasionally, but I think Gator's probably in the D range, personally. You know, you could argue False was better or whatever, I guess, but yeah, NFT tier. Gator just wasn't the guy. He obviously was not the person that Atlanta desired to be out there. Hawk was just numerous times more valuable. Gushue with the mullet is up next. Look at that mullet he's got, chat. Isn't it a thing of beauty? Gushue, I think, really redeemed himself towards the end of this season. I have to give him a lot of credit. When the Spark needed to clutch up and start winning games, he played a lot better. Because I thought Gushue was on his way out. He looked washed to me a lot of the time this year, especially like when the Spark started struggling, like second half of the season, before they picked it up come playoffs. He did some redemption, though, and his Winston was very consistent. I have to give him a lot of credit. I think Gushue, though, because he had ups and downs, should be in the B range. I don't want to base just what he did off playoffs. Like, it's kind of like with Fearless, where I'm thinking about moving him just because I feel like I'm basing it just off playoffs. I'm going to give Gushue a high B, though, personally. I think he was only good for Winston, really. That's my big problem. It's just like with Fearless, again, which is why I'm thinking about moving him. It's tough. I feel like if I give Gushue that treatment, I have to give Fearless that treatment. Man. I might have to move some things around. My S tier might consist literally of only like 2 players at this point. I think for now I'm going to do this. Anyway, Hadi is going to be up next. And I'd argue, you know, Hadi, while maybe a little overrated by the general public, was still a good player this year. He proved himself a lot. He played Ryan and made it work when nobody else could. His Winston is better than people give it credit for. He adjusted and played Junker Queen well. I think Hadi deserves an A tier, personally, for how he played. Very improved. Solid player. I don't know if I want to put him above Dante. I mean, because Hadi won a Roll Star, I guess I technically should be putting Hadi above Dante. I think that's fair. I thought Dante meant a bit more to his team, but it's kind of hard to argue against the results. I wonder where we could put this guy, Hanbin. This guy's just so terrible at the game, chat. I've never seen such a terrible player in my entire life. He's just so bad. He's just such a terrible, terrible player. He should be at the bottom of D. So bad. Just kidding. Obviously, S tier, like, without question. Was the most impactful tank in the league, arguably the most dominant whenever he got to play. He was actually a freak of nature on Zarya and Junker Queen, like, actually not fair. There was not a single thing he was bad at that's, like, something you'd expect him to play. Hanbin was just an absolute monster through and through, and rightfully one of the top players in the league. Arguably the best tank in the league, depending on who you're talking to. Just like Proper, not enough playtime. I hope we get to see him play more next season. True. Hawk. Hawk was another guy that put in a lot of work this year. A lot was asked of him. He had to step up and pretty much start all the time. And he did a great job, you know? He did great. One of the better Doomfist players, one of the better D.Va players. His Junker Queen, a little underrated in my opinion. Statistically, it was really good. Hawk kept that Reign team very stable, and it was obvious that they needed him to have any sort of chance of winning. He was so important to their success, it's not even funny. So I'm going to give Hawk a low A. Hawk surprised me in Season 5, same. He really stepped up. Hotba is going to be up next. Hotba, another guy who I think had a bit of an underrated season personally. Flexibility-wise, pretty on point. He got more and more playtime as the season progressed. We saw Muse, like, slowly fade out of the picture. Hoppa played more and more and more. Zarya was looking good. Junker Queen was looking good. I was very impressed with Hoppa, and in my opinion, he played some of the best Overwatch we've ever seen out of him. I think Overwatch 2 really benefited his playstyle, and it was clear that he was a pretty important leader to the Defiant. Like, genuinely. People forget that in the playoffs, they had him play Winston over Muse. Like, that's a statement right there, man. Hoppa is good. I think Hoppa is in the B range. I think it's fair to put him, like, above Fate. I think maybe you could argue Fate was better or whatever, but Hoppa should be in B. alexyOWL. I feel like he played enough, or did he? I don't know how many hours he played. I don't know how many hours alexyOWL played, but I don't remember him being very good. Very unmemorable. Genuinely, I think he should be no playtime. He played 10 maps in 1-0. I mean, 10 maps is a decent bit. I think that's pretty fair. He was pretty not good. I mean, 0-10 in maps is a big statement. He's probably around here. He played more than I wanted him to, so I'd say D. That's brutal. Yeah, well, I mean, regardless, he's not going to be ranked high. So Kalios will be our next contender on the list. And all things considered, I appreciate Kalios' effort. He kind of stepped into a weird situation on Washington. He wasn't really supposed to be their main guy, but then the disaster happened with the roster fiasco. And I thought his Junker Queen was maybe a little underrated. I thought he could do some good work on the D.Va. He had his moments of brilliance. I do think he was inconsistent, though. That's my big problem. There were times where he was good, and there are other times where I felt like he was kind of getting exposed out there. I won't lie to you. It was up and down for him. But in those crunch time moments, I didn't really feel his presence outside of like a couple of matches. Kalios wasn't bad, though. I'm willing to rate him in the B range. I don't know how high. Do I think he's better than Fate and how he did? Maybe. I don't know if I'd put him above Hotba. Sure, why not? We'll put Kalios in the B range. I'd say he was a bit more impactful than Fate overall. He had more chances to prove himself. So, we'll give Kalios a low B. Kellen's a toughie because New York were just garbage. The poor guy really did not get a chance. Regardless of your opinion on Kellen, he did not have good support around him. Anyone would have absolutely suffered in that situation, regardless of how talented they are. And I think it was Yiska, the Overwatch esports reporter on Twitter. He brought up some interesting stats that show that Kellen was actually a lot more impactful than people give him credit for. But because he didn't have much of a chance to shine, I feel like he should be in C. I'll just give him like a low C. I feel like on a better team, Kellen could have been something special because he does have a lot of talent to boast. It's just he was the only tank on his team as a rookie with a horrible supporting cast, but he still statistically did pretty okay, so I'll give him like a, an average because I feel bad for him. Do you think Kellen will get another team? Probably not, but I hope he does. Craw-E, that is a D tier and a half. The Eternal were terrible. There's no doubt about that. But oh boy, was he not doing his team any favors. He felt like the weak link to me. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but he felt like the weakest link. Probably, I mean, he actually won maps on like Itzel, so I guess I'll by default put him above or ahead of Itzel. Kellen was surprisingly flexible too. Sigma and Zarya were pretty decent. Yeah, true. This is Liege. He only played like 15 minutes, so I'm not going to rate him. He played like 2 maps, I think, at most, maybe 1. So we'll just move on. Mag. Ooh. Mag. I've been hearing a lot of hate about Mag, man. People are saying he is a massive disappointment, and while I somewhat agree that he's not lived up to his potential, I thought he was okay. I thought he was fine. His Junker Queen was really underrated on Washington. And his Winston was okay as well. He had his moments, but once he got traded to Boston, that was it. I thought he's one of the better players on Washington, at least. I mean, that's not saying much. Oh, is Mag a C-tier player? Oh my god. Am I going to put Mag in C? I might put Mag in C. That's crazy. Wow, I think Mag has to be in C tier. Holy moly. That's wild. It feels so weird putting him like mid, but that's what he was. He was good on Queen, and he had his moments, but then he got benched on Boston. Wow, I'm putting Mag in C tier. I feel like he's probably top of C, though. I'll give him top of C. I liked his Queen a lot. Yo, Rorima, I'm doing all right. Hope you're doing good. Marvel. I really liked how Marvel played. Once he got onto the Valiant and had a real chance to prove himself, I thought Marvel played very respectably. Or respectably? Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. I respected his gameplay. His Winston was still pretty solid, despite not really playing that hero much over the years, recently, after the whole Soul disaster. His Sig still looked pretty great. I very much appreciated Marvel, despite being an old vet. He played pretty good on a Valiant team that he was unfamiliar with, and he helped them make a good late-season push. Marvel was pretty pivotal towards this team's success. So I'm going to put Marvel next to Hot Bum, my boy. Mikey. I don't know if is Mikey. I don't think Mikey's D because he played well enough in the playoffs. Underappreciated in the playoffs. I think Mikey's either a B or a C. His ball was pretty good. I have to give him credit. His ball is better than people remember. And I do appreciate how he played on Monkey in the playoffs. Like, he held his own. Obviously he wasn't out of this world. He was not blowing you away. But I think that he definitely helped that Shock team out more than people give him credit for. He's overhated. That's how I like to think of it. I wouldn't say underrated, but definitely overhated. I'll put him low B. But does that feel weird, though? Oh, I have to think about this. Do I consider him better than Mag? It's hard. I don't know if I could really put him a whole tier above Mag. I feel like I'm disrespecting Mag at that point. Like, I know Mag was not that great this year, but I feel like that's disrespectful if I put him a tier above Mag. I feel like I'm going to put Mikey in C. I feel like I'm being too disrespectful if I put him a whole tier above Mag. You could argue maybe he's better than Mag, sure, depending on who you're talking to. But above Mag, below Fate. Can I put a B minus? I don't know if I'm being disrespectful by doing this. Wow. This is my controversy of the video, I guess. For those of you who are watching the VOD later on. Ooh. This is just this season. This is a tough call to make. No space yet. We'll get to him. Hot takes and heartbreaks. I mean, he did play well in the playoffs, though. I guess I'll give him the B minus. Oh, it feels so wrong, but I really have to just accept it. I have to stop living in the past. Mag didn't play that good. All right, moving on. Mirror. I think Mirror is like in the C range. Definitely preferred over False. Queen was okay. I felt like he was a little one-dimensional. It was like Doomfist and Queen mostly that he could play. He definitely helped the Titans play better, though, in his defense. I'll put him above Kellen, sure. Why not? This is Muse. Mirror was Walmart Dante. Muse, I mean, literally got replaced. I think it's so weird because Muse started this year pretty good on Monkey. Like, I remember he won like a couple of player of the matches. He was pretty relevant. And then Hotba just got all the play time and he was done. I feel like Muse is like a C. He was mostly used for Winston. I think he's like around Kellen level. You know? Tantrum tier. He had a good Doom, though. I'll put him above Kellen, sure. Never liked Muse. Honestly, D. Rough. Yeah, I don't know how true those rumors were of him in Finale wanting to leave. Those were just rumors. Piggy, my boy! Piggy was in the same situation as Marvel, where he got off his team, moved to a different one, and made a pretty notable impact. Be it was in a short amount of time, but that last, like, stage or whatever it was, Countdown Cup, he popped off pretty hard for Charge. Even showing off, like, an okay Winston at times. You know, Zarya is baller. I don't know why I said baller. It makes me sound cringe, but you get the idea. Good Zarya, good Sig. Good all-around player. I like how Piggy played a ton this year. I think Piggy's probably in my B. Did I like Piggy more than Hotba? Maybe a little better than Hotba. We'll give Piggy like a mid to high B. Piggy was very respectable on Guangzhou Charge, or maybe I'll put him below Hotba. Yeah, no, I like him there. Poco, my boy Poco. More so of a specialist, didn't play too much, but played enough to be worth ranking. Even though he didn't play a lot, I remember his Sig being pretty good. His Diva was pretty decent too. It's just that, you know, obviously, with the strategy with London, clearly he wasn't going to be played that much. Hottie's their guy. He played Sig a decent bit. I think he played like an hour and a half, I want to say. He did help win some games and some maps. It's really hard to give him a high ranking with how little he played. I feel like Poco should be in C. I think it's fair to give Poco like a high C. He did good when he played, it's just he obviously wasn't that important to the team's overall success. You could argue B minus, but like with an hour and a half, it's hard to justify a B minus, I feel like. Yeah, Poco did look good when he played. I'll give Poco C. Poco was kind of a Walmart space. I mean, to be honest, their playtime amount is pretty similar. Punk, my boy Punk. I loved how Punk played this year. People need to respect my boy Punk. He was the hard carry of Boston Uprising. And literally, anytime they benched him, they lost. Like, that's all you need to know. When Punk wasn't in the game, Boston lost. When Punk's in the game, Boston wins. It is that simple. My man was a beast on the Zarya. and pretty much anything he touched, to be honest. He was just a good all-around player. I think Punk is in my high B range personally. Put him with Piggy. I'll put... Yeah, I think he's probably above Hoppa. I mean, I might even put him above Belisria, to be honest. I liked Punk a lot. I'm going to give Punk a high B. A lot of people think Punk is underrated, which I don't understand. I mean, maybe we'll see what happens when he plays on Vancouver, but I thought Punk was a pretty big beast. Now for another tough one. Reiner. Reiner is hard, man. Reiner is hard. Because I think up until Summer Showdown, he was quite obviously S tier. But Summer Showdown, I think, definitely decreased his stock a little bit. He played poorly. He kind of got boomed a little mentally. And I don't feel like he was as good after that. Still solid. But I think second half of the year, there was some fall off. He was very flexible, though. I think overall, if you look at the picture as a whole, he was good. Can we give him his own tier for that rant? True. Monkey was one of the better ones in the league. I think outside of Queen, he was good. I think I'd probably, overall value-wise, I'd probably put him above Fearless. He won a Roll Star. I think Reiner was good. It was just the Junker Queen that maybe lowered his stunk a little bit. You could say S as well, but I'll put him A for now. I thought Reiner was good, though. Solid player. Just a little bit of a fall off towards the end. This is Rio. I don't even remember how much Rio played. And if he did play a lot, I sure as hell do not remember him doing anything of use for that charge team. It's probably... I think he played an okay amount at the start. He's a D tier regardless. He's in the D range. Blah. Big ol' D. Nothing out of this world. Pretty bad. Sashin. The Zarya player himself, and well, slash diva, I guess. He had his moments on Zarya, but that's all you can really remember him playing. I think he's probably low C because he was okay. It was obvious they needed another tank, but he was okay. He's in that similar vein as like DayZ, where he has his very specific uses. I thought he was okay for what it's worth. His Zarya kind of slapped, I won't lie. Valiant had to play around his weak hero pool, and they made it work. No Dia, because I don't consider Dia to be a tank player. He played Queen, but I don't really count that. He's a DPS player who played Queen for like 6 games. I don't really count it. Smurf. I wonder where we could put Smurf. Gee, I wonder. Oh, jeez. Where would Smurf go on this list? I wonder. S tier for sure. The question is, do you value his flexibility more than Hanbin, or do you value Hanbin's impact more? Like, that's like these are like the obvious top 2 tanks for most people. Everyone ranks them either 1 or 2. I think personally, because of Hanbin's dominance, he was the best tank in the league. But I can understand the argument for Smurf being number 1 for the simple fact that he was the only tank player on his team. He literally played everything and was good at everything. You could argue, very strongly, he also should have been MVP. Like, if you don't include Proper, I guess, in the conversation, he's right up there. I love me some Smurf. I go back and forth. I think Smurf and Hanbin were both insane. Do you think Smurf is better than Reiner? Yeah. I'm going to give Smurf S tier. Him and Hanbin are basically equal, though. Just know that. I rate them both very highly, and I thought they were the benchmark for all tank players this year in terms of consistency and dominance. Someone kind of came out of nowhere this year, He was a good prospect in contenders, but he came on eventually after they released Adam shortly after as the only tank player on the team. And he was kind of a mega flex. I have to give a lot of credit where it's due for someone. In my opinion, he should have been a Roll Star because of his impact and reliability. Maybe that's just me. But I thought someone was solid on pretty much anything he touched. His Ryan was fine. His Winston was great. played decently on Queen. Zarya and Sigma, I gotta say, really surprised me. I'm a big fan of someone. Positive energy, good leader. Someone D for Dance Break. You could argue, flexibility-wise, he's like S tier, but I can't really put him in the same vein as like Smurf and Hanbin. I don't even know. Do I think he's better? I don't even know if I think he's better than Kaluj. I think I rate someone better than Hottie, Dante, and Hawk. I might. Do I like him more than Kaluj? It's hard. I thought they were both really good. I think just because of the I mean, then again, Kaluj was versatile too. But you could also argue Kaluj had the, he's playing with the best player in the league. I think someone meant more to his team personally, so I'm going to put someone above Kaluj. You could even argue about Fearless if you wanted to be honest with you. I might change it after. That's where I'll keep him for now. Definitely a solid A tier, though. Space is up next. More of a backup, similar role to Poco. Very, very specific instances where we saw him play, with the one exception being like those last couple of games in Summer Showdown, where he got the full-time start as Junker Queen, and the Gladiator started winning games when he played. He looked good, honestly. Space was a specialist, but he looked good when he actually got the opportunity to play. I thought his Sig and his Junker Queen were both pretty on point. I think Space is probably in the B range for me. I'll put him above Mikey, personally, but yeah, I think Space was good. Am I blind and not seeing Piggy? Piggy is right here, my friend. Maybe I'll put... honestly, maybe I should reconsider this. No, it's hard because Space didn't play a lot, though. He was good, but he didn't play a lot. I might put him above Kalios as well. I thought Space was more consistent than Kalios. Yeah, I think it's fair. Space didn't play a lot, though, so I can't rate him too high. Yeah, I have the Houston jersey of Piggy. I couldn't find a Guangzhou jersey. This is Vestola. Yeah, Vestola. Oh, we're down to our last two tanks. Vestola and Void. Ignore all these other guys. This is scuffed. Vestola, absolute bottom of the list. Dang, you're doing him dirty. I honestly thought Vestola was the best tank that the Eternal fielded this year. Not that that means much, because they were all bad. But I thought he was the best tank they fielded, personally. Statistically, he was pretty alright. Obviously, that doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of it. I think Paris is probably the best tank Vestola is probably the best Paris tank. I feel comfortable giving Vestola like a high D tier. You could argue low C if you wanted to, I think. It's tempting. I think I'll keep him there for now. It's hard when you play on a team that wins one game to rate anyone higher than D tier, sadly. But if you want to put him low C, I understand your argument. Okay. With that in mind, we're down to the final tank of the tier list. Ignore all these other guys. Void. Void was still really good this year. I think Void doesn't get enough credit because Shanghai fell off a little. Maybe there was a bit more attention on Lip compared to even last year, which is crazy to think about, but it's true. I think Void was still a solid A-tier player. Pretty darn impactful. His Queen looked good during Summer Showdown. His Diva was good. His Sig was good. He was not bad on anything. Not really that same S-tier player from like the last couple of years prior, but man, was he still a nutcase. I'll put him above Hawk. I think Void was a better player than Hawk, but I think Dante's impact was maybe a bit stronger than Void. You could argue Void's higher than Dante. I might even put him above Dante, but I'll keep him there. It's weird because Void, like, he had his only specific uses. He was good during the Queen meta, and then there's other times where Fate was playing. Like, he couldn't always be there for his team. It's not all his fault, but that's the truth. Flexibility was just so important this year. The only exception to that is Hanbin because he was just that good and fearless. Other than that, flexibility like goes a long way. I guess Gushwei as well is an exception, but you get my drift. I think that's pretty good though. I'm having a hard time adding anyone else to S. I feel like other people should be an S because it feels weird having two guys, but I don't know if I put anyone in the same vein as Hanbin and Smurf. I really don't know if I can do it. I feel like putting only two tanks in S tier is weird and dumb, but I genuinely might keep it how it is. Because I think Hanbin and Smurf were just that much better than most of their competition. IMO. You could argue you could put, like, a couple of these guys up here. I think it's tempting to, like, put Reiner in S and, like, Fearless in S, but a lot of these other guys, like, had certain weaknesses. And Hanbin and Smurf pretty much had none. So, can you add someone in Reiner to a low S? But Smurf and Hanbin really aren't a tier of their own. Yeah, they could be like an S-, I guess. We could make like an S- tier. I'd probably put like these four in an S-, you know? And these guys would be an A. So like so add one row above. S- / A+. I think that's pretty fair. I mean, either way, it doesn't really matter that much. They're either A+ or S-. Doesn't make that much of a difference. But yeah, I think that's going to do it. I think I am pretty happy with this. I don't really feel a need to move anyone. I'm happy with how this list turned out, which is a surprise because the DPS one was a disaster. But I kind of like where this is at. Smurf, Hanbin, top tier tanks. You can go one or two, really doesn't matter. Same difference. And I think everyone else is below them, really. That's kind of how I thought about this season in general. Who's the first in no playtime? That is Adam. Yeah, though, if you're watching from the YouTube VOD, hope you enjoyed. I'll leave a link in the description to this tier list if you want to try it for yourself. And I'll see you for the support tier list probably sometime next week.